Football Week 10 is here. I'm Shannon Sommerville with your top 5 college football player prop bets that are available on Underdog Fantasy, PrizePicks, Sleeper, and CHALKBOARD. If you don't have those apps, go ahead and download them. Use the promo code LineStar and you'll get up to $100 of your first deposit match. Make sure to take advantage of that deal. Also, the tool I'm using, it's called the Props AI tool. It is on the LineStar app. What it does is it compares LineStar's projections to what's out there in the various sports books, or whether you're playing on Underdog Fantasy, PrizePicks. Make sure to check that out, linestarapp.com. And do me a huge favor, like this video, subscribe to our channel, comment below. Comment also enters you into our prop bets contest. One randomly selected commenter will win $100 if we hit 4 of 5 props. I think it's happening this week. I feel good about our props. Last week we were 3-2 on our picks. We got to get back in the win column. The week prior, though, I had a terrible week. I was over 5, so whiffed on just about everything. I'm due for a 5-0 week. I swear. I promise you guys. One of these days. All right, last week, let's recap really quickly. The two guys that let us down, Jack Plummer, the Louisville quarterback, did not hit the over on his passing yards. Jackson Dart, the Ole Miss quarterback, was 7 yards short of his passing yards mark that we took the over on. And then the guys who pulled through for us, let's give them a shout out. The Georgia Bulldogs, of course. Oscar Delp hit the over. He's the tight end that was filling in for Brock Bowers. And then we had Lad McConkey's over on receiving yards. He hit as well. And then we had Fernando Mendoza, the freshman quarterback from Cal. He hit the over on his passing yards. So we were 3-2 last week. Overall in the season, 19-22. Still looking to get back into that winning record. So let's kick things off, shall we? In the Pac-12, the West Coast, we're going to Oregon quarterback Bo Nix, over 267.5 passing yards. Nix has gone over this mark in 6 of 8 games, averaging 292 passing yards per game. Last week, he took it to the Utah defense that was one of the best in the country. And this week he gets Cal, a defense that is not nearly as good as Utah. In fact, they rank 8th in the Pac-12, allowing 261 passing yards per game. Another note here that I do want to point out to you is the over on passing touchdowns for Bo Nix set at 2.5 passing touchdowns. That is plus money in the sports books. And not a bad bet when you consider that he's hit this 50% of the time this season. Just wanted to throw that out there. But for our purposes here, we're going to take the over on passing yards. And I'm feeling really good about this prop. In fact, it's probably the one I'm most confident in heading into this week. This is one of the most, in fact, the most experienced starting quarterback in college football history. He's accurate. He's not really prone to a lot of mistakes, and so I really like his spot here going up against this Cal team that he torched last year for over 400 yards. We're going over on Bo Nix passing yards. Now let's head to the SEC. For the first game, we're going to the Alabama-LSU game, and I'm looking at Alabama wide receiver Jermaine Burton over 65.5 receiving yards. Burton's a guy we've gone to a couple times this season, and he's continued to cash for us, so we're going to keep going back to the well here. Burton is averaging 72.5 receiving yards per game. LineStar is projecting him for just over 75 receiving yards. While he's only gone over this line 1 of 7 games, I love the matchup here. Going up against LSU, a team that gives up 238.5 passing yards per game. That is 10th in the SEC. The game total in this one is 61.5. That is super high. In fact, one of the highest of the weekend. So we're expecting a lot of offense in this one. And speaking of offense, the Alabama offense has looked very good since Jalen Milroe really kind of steadied the ship over the last couple of weeks, especially because he finds Jermaine Burton so often recently. They've really been connecting really well. The former Georgia Bulldog doing big things for the Crimson Tide. In fact, he leads the SEC in yards per reception. We're rolling with Burton over 65.5 receiving yards. Elsewhere in the SEC, number 2 Georgia taking on number 12 Missouri in Athens, Georgia. And in this one, I'm a little concerned about my Georgia Bulldogs, specifically the secondary. Yes, they're one of the best in the nation, but have they really been tested? This Missouri Tigers team will certainly test them. They're one of the best offenses in the SEC, and they've got great receivers, especially Luther Burden, who is one of the leaders in the SEC in receiving yards. However, his line's a little high for me, 91.5. That's a little high. And I think Georgia will really key in on stopping Luther Burden in this one. So I'm going to another one of Missouri's wide receivers, and that is Theo Wees. We're going over 47.5 receiving yards for Wees. He's gone over this 4 of 8 games, averaging 55 receiving yards per game. Even though Georgia secondary ranks 3rd in college football in yards per coverage snap, they really haven't faced this dynamic of an offense yet. And furthermore, if you're going to take one of the wide receivers for Mizzou and their overs, you might as well just take Brady Cook too, the quarterback. And his over at 247.5 is what it's listed right now. LineStar is projecting him for well over this. In fact, 274.9 is LineStar's projection. Brady Cook's a dynamic quarterback, knows how to get that offense rolling, and he is tied for third in college football with 20 big-time throws this season. Something that Georgia Bulldogs going to have a tough time defending against. So if you're leaning into that wide receiver prop like I am with Missouri, then you also got to really think about the over on the quarterback passing yards as well and maybe take them. So that's a little 3 and 3A for you right there. Well, I gave you some Missouri Tigers ones. Now I got to give you a Georgia Bulldog prop. We're running it back to Ladd McConkey, the wide receiver for the Georgia Bulldogs. We're taking the over on his receiving yards this week. This week it's gone up to 58.5 receiving yards, but I still like the spot here. Last week we took the over, and he had 6 receptions for 135 receiving yards against Florida, a defense that ranked 5th in the SEC in passing yards allowed. And this week, they're going up against Mizzou, a defense that ranks 9th in that category. So McConkey's in a great spot. Now, he's only gone over that line once this season. However, he's only played 4 games. In the first few games, they were kind of easing him into the season. He was recovering from an injury, and now he's fully back and healthy. Meanwhile, Brock Bowers is out of the lineup. Georgia Bulldogs, best player, best receiver. So a lot of the volume is going to have to go somewhere. And I think that's going to have to go to Ladd McConkey, who's one of the most reliable receivers on the team. And so I love McConkey's spot here against Missouri pass defense that ranks towards the bottom in the SEC. Next, we're going to the Big 12. Number 7, Texas is taking on 25th ranked Kansas State. And in this one, we're looking at Texas Longhorns running back Jonathan Brooks over 103.5 rushing yards in this one. Brooks is the number 1 running back prospect for the next NFL draft for good reason. Brooks is averaging 115 rush yards per game and has gone over that 103.5 mark. And for the last 6 games, he leads the Power 5 with 58 forced missed tackles this season. That's crazy. And going up against Kansas State, they rank 97th nationally in run defense grade and are allowing the 9th most yards per attempt in the Power 5. So Brooks in a great spot. Also, Texas will be with quarterback Malik Murphy in this one, as Quinn Ewers still out with a shoulder injury in this one. I think that means they lean on the run game a little more. Just hand it to Brooks. So I'm rolling with Brooks. Yes, I know it's a high number, but we're going over 103.5 rushing yards. Lastly, got a little bonus prop for you guys. If you're watching the Clemson-Notre Dame game, I've actually got Notre Dame running back Audric Estime under 78.5 rushing yards in this one. Yes, I know Estime is averaging 100 rushing yards per game and has gone over this 7 of 9 games. However, the 2 times he went under that mark were when he was up against a top 25 rushing defense. He had 70 against Ohio State, they rank 15th. He had 20 against Louisville, they rank 11th. Now he's facing Clemson, a team that is 24th in their rush defense. They have a really good rushing defense. I also think they're kind of playing mad. They had this caller call in to the Dabo Sweeney show. Tyler from Spartanburg was popping off. I think Clemson Tigers are going to come together and have a really good game against Notre Dame in this one. I definitely think they're going to stop Audric Estime. He had over 100 against them last year. I don't think they're going to allow him to run wild in this one. So I like the under here for Audric Estime's rushing yards. So those are my props for week 10 in college football. Let me know what you think about them in the comments. Whether you love them, whether you hate them, I want to hear from you guys. And also, if you have any really good props that you think are going to cash this weekend, let me know in the comments. We're all here to help each other out. It's like a group project. We're all just trying to beat the books. So let's hear from you guys in the comments. Again, a comment also enters you into the contest, whereby if we hit 4 of 5, one randomly selected commenter will win $100, and we'll announce that on next week's show. Good luck, everybody, in all of your prop betting endeavors. Remember to check out the LineStar app and that Props AI tool. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.